Oh, happy Saturday evening, everybody. Welcome into a post-game edition of the Cory Sanning Show. I am your host, yours truly, as always. Thank you for tuning in. Uh, those of you that tuned into the pregame show earlier, you might feel like this could be a somber one, but honestly, we're just going to be looking at it straight down the middle. Tennessee loses in overtime to Georgia. We'll be reacting to that. I'll also be looking at Arch Manning's head mind-boggling struggles against UTEP. Is it time to bench him? Is it time to go to someone else? Who do they really have aside from him? We're going to go into the Sunday NFL picks, which thank God I still have NFL football tomorrow to get over this. Going to do our Mad Minute, which we're reacting to some of more action around college football. And then we'll cap things off with Sunday's featured bet, which is a new segment we're going to start to do on this show every Sunday. So I'd be remiss, though, if I did not first mention this episode's sponsor, as it was earlier. It's the same right now. Clean Eats Knoxville. And we're going to go ahead and take one more look at this week's meal prep menu. As many of you know, I am a fitness enthusiast, although my diet in the past 4 or 5 months has been less than be desired. That's why Clean Eats stepped in to help me fix that. I don't have to cook anything. All I have to do is order for Tuesday through Sunday. You have Sunday at midnight. I've missed the deadline a few times. All I have to do is go online, choose my location. Brookview Center Way. Bearden is my favorite. Of course, shout out to Emily. And then you go in here and you just put what you want. You choose the quantity. Go on here. Want to add some add-ons? Want to add some bison? Go for it. Dark chocolate peanut butter Buckeyes? Go for it. Energy bites? Go for it. Protein PB&Js. Everyone loves some Uncrustables. Hey, add a little protein and less sugar, and that'll help you go a long way and loosen some weight. Clean Eats. It's not a diet. It's a lifestyle. So now that that's out of the way, we got our sponsors taken care of. Going to jump right into it. Tennessee loses to Georgia in overtime, 44-41. Had a 38-31 lead with less than 4 minutes to go in the game. Had many chances to put this thing away, and they failed to do so. I have a saying that I think I should have copyrighted or trademarked a long time ago since I moved here, and that's, as much as I love my alma mater and I bleed orange, Tennessee going to Tennessee when it matters most. Throughout the Josh Heupel era, more often than not, they usually get it done, but there's been some instances here and there, particularly against Georgia, where they just don't seem to show up, and then they finally showed up, and they just didn't have Chase McGrath. We'll get into that here in a second. Gunnar Stockton was phenomenal, 23-31, 304 yards, 2 touchdowns, no picks. Going in, Joey Aguilar. I mean, aside from the one interception that was practically what they call an arm punt nowadays, which do I agree with that term? No, I don't, but it's just what people say. Joey Aguilar was 24-36 in his first big-time SEC game, 371 yards, 4 touchdowns, of course, a couple interceptions, but Tennessee on the ground. Star Thomas, 9 carries for 60 yards. We're going to get into the ground game here in a minute because I don't think they utilized it to the best of their abilities late. Deshaun Bishop, 15 carries, 54 yards, kind of struggled there a bit, just averaging 3.6 yards a carry. And then Georgia, Nate Frazier, 14 carries for 73 yards, solid, 5.2 yards a carry. Gunnar Stockton carried the ball 13 times for 38 yards and a touchdown. And, of course, Tennessee had the 2 interceptions. Georgia Gunnar Stockton did have the 1 fumble, which we'll get into that drive here in just a second, which could have salted the game away had Tennessee punched it in the end zone, but they were, of course, unable to. We're going to answer the question down there because I think it's a pretty simple one. Did Tennessee choke? Absolutely. Absolutely. There were several opportunities. I mean, credit them for fighting back. The defense was getting gashed early on in the second half, especially on the ground. They were getting pushed around up front, both on the defensive and offensive lines. Credit them for calming down and getting back to it. Credit to Joey Aguilar who struggled in the second and portions of the third quarter for bouncing back and giving Tennessee a chance late. I mean, it was you couldn't ask for a better football game in terms of what you're going to get out of a college game. You really couldn't have. Now, if that was an NFL game, would I expect that kick to have been made regardless of the false start, which we'll get into here in a second? Yes. But this is one of the reasons the autonomy in college football is so fun sometimes. But as we know, Max Gilbert comes on, has a 43-yard attempt to win it, shanked it badly, had no chance. And honestly, I mean, you go to the play before that, you had 7 seconds and 3 timeouts, so Tennessee goes to run a play, and they commit a false start. I mean, you can't make this stuff up. That is undisciplined football at its finest. regardless of who you're rooting for in this game. You laugh at that because really, in the biggest of moments, I mean, I was thinking to myself, now granted, I'm not Josh Heupel and I'm not the coach, and I'm not saying I'm more qualified to make the call than he is, but I was thinking, a 39-yarder, I believe at the time, 38-yarder, quarterback sneak it, get a couple yards or two, just fall forward, center the field, and then you call timeout and you kick the field goal. I mean, that would have made it a 35 to 36-yarder. I mean, that's very makeable even for a college kicker, and that's not what they did. They were going to run a power run up the middle, and not a bad play call, but offensive lineman jumps off sides, undisciplined when it matters most. And as you know, as many of you know, I have been a Ravens fan for years, and they have made a living off of blowing big leads in big games. Tennessee's done the same thing, except for a lot longer. Getting into the final drive, though, you couldn't ask for better execution until those final two plays. And honestly, the more I watched Max Gilbert on the sideline, the more I listened to the broadcast, the more I realized what was going on and saw the look in his eyes, which did not scream confidence to me. Grant, he had it 50, 48-yarder earlier, so he was capable. But if you look at his numbers on the season, he's only hit half of his field goal, so he's very capable of missing as well. And he just shanked it. And I honestly knew once I saw the look in his eyes that he didn't have it in him. Some people, I mean, in the biggest of moments, you want people that are calm. You want someone that wants that pressure. And he just didn't come through. It's life. It's football. Some things aren't always going to go your way. Georgia's a top 10 team for a reason. Tennessee played them as well as they possibly could have. The crowd was amazing. The crowd at College Game Day was amazing. It was an incredible atmosphere. They just didn't get it done. And they're now 0-5 against Georgia in the Heupel era. They have not beat Georgia in 9 years since that unbelievable 2015 Hail Mary. I went down with the ship even in my group chat and said, hey, this feels a little bit like Alabama 2022. But unfortunately, you didn't have Chase McGrath, which is what I was mentioning earlier. Even a knuckleball, he was still calm enough to drill that. Max Gilbert, that was just something. That was something. And Tennessee obviously gets the ball first in overtime, only get a field goal, and their defense can't stop Georgia. Game over. You move on. You move on to next week. I think a lot of us had a lot of questions about Tennessee this year. I mean, it was as much as you can't really say a loss is encouraging, but that was an encouraging loss, even though Joey Aguilar won't be here after this year, and hopefully they'll have a better quarterback coming in. You got really good receivers, a lot better receivers than last year, and you could still be Nico Iamaleava. I mean, if we're being completely honest, you could still be Nico Iamaleava. Who got the better end of that deal? Still Tennessee. But as I said before, Tennessee going to Tennessee. You have third and 5. And like I said, I was thinking you just do a power run, or you just do a quarterback sneak, fall forward, get a couple more yards. At that point, you're not looking for a first down. Why would you even risk that possibility? And they did, and it came back to bite them. I mean, I might sound like being very pessimistic here about this game, but that is because I am. Tennessee should have won this game, and it's a never-ending trend. Being a Tennessee supporter, Tennessee alum, Tennessee fan, there are many around here in Knoxville. Since the golden days, or since 2022, even that year, still managed not to get to the ultimate goal. Nico leaves. I think they got the better end of that, like I said earlier. But overall, at the end of the day, Tennessee just found a way to blow it, as Tennessee has often done in the past 20 years. Great performance. It was a very encouraging performance, especially on the defensive side. They did get gashed, but it was impressive to see them overcome that late, considering they don't have their starting corners. They don't have Jermon McCoy, who's perhaps the best corner in all of college football. That was encouraging. But at the same time, so many dumb mistakes, stupid penalties, missed tackles. Open field tackling in college football is a sham. It just never happens. Tackling technique is so bad. So bad. This is one reason why the NFL will always be a superior product. Defenses are better, and you have the best of the best going against the best of the best. Even on bad defenses in the NFL, I see perfect form tackling in the open field. I just don't see that in college football. Maybe they need to get better coaches teaching these kids how to tackle, but I mean, who am I to say? I'm neither a former player nor coach, so I'm just a guy with a podcast. See what some of you have to say in the comments. I do appreciate the few that are tuning in. I'm sure there's many people that are drunk and mourning in Knoxville right now. I thought Tennessee's defense was better than Georgia's this year. It very well could have been, but they just have a quarterback that gets it done when it matters most. That was an incredible play on 4th down. Pressure in his face, and he lays it out perfectly. Perfect throw. I mean, and lo and behold, again, you had the opportunity. All you had to do was make one stop. One stop. Better coverage over the top. You cannot give a single coverage on a defensive back with no safety help over the top when they're – I mean, the guy's sprinting to the end zone. You got to prevent that. And it was a short field too, so you had they had less space to work with, so you use that to your advantage as a defense, but they didn't. And Georgia made them pay. Georgia made them pay. I can't even sit here and hate on that because that was a great play. That was a fantastic play. Perfectly drawn up, perfectly executed in a big, big moment on the road. Not the most one of the most hostile environments in all of sports. As you heard, Kirk Herbstreit kept saying the 8th largest stadium in the world. I've been there. I covered that team for 6 years. It's loud. It's loud. I knew this game was going to be an L as soon as they scored to go up 38-30 with too much time left on the clock for Georgia to move the ball down the field. I said the same thing at the same time. I thought that they needed a touchdown. I tweeted out that you have to capitalize here. And once they got the field goal, I quote tweeted it saying halfway. They had to score a touchdown. I mean, you can't make mistakes against a team like that. Even though Georgia this year isn't the world beaters they have been in years past, they still have Kirby Smart as head coach, and he's obviously one of the best ever. Could be one of the best ever now. Nick Saban wasn't still. I mean, with Nick Saban out, he's the one who pretty much runs the SEC now. And hey, who knows? Maybe if Carson Beck doesn't get hurt last year, maybe Georgia does get to the championship game. It still wouldn't have beat Ohio State, but who knows what will happen. 9 years is a long time. Best be humble before they play them next year. They're playing them in Georgia next year. So unless Tennessee, I mean, they've got a great recruiting class coming in, but unless Joey Aguilar's gone after this year, who knows who the quarterback's going to be. So a lot of uncertainty there. And I feel like Tennessee fans have been humble because this was the best chance they had. And everyone saw that. But at the same time, that's why I bet both ways. I bet on Georgia to win and I bet on Tennessee to win because either way, I'm a winner and I want some money. So I'm halfway happy and I have the NFL tomorrow. And as we all know, the NFL is my favorite league. I feel like it's the best league in the world and I don't think anything else compares. But we're going to move on. We're going to move on to the next topic in the show, which is Texas. Texas won, but they did so in a very, very underwhelming fashion. Beat UTEP 27-10. UTEP's nothing to write home about. As I mentioned, Arch Manning had a horrific first half and didn't end the game much better. 11 for 25. That's less than 50% completion percentage. 114 passing yards, a touchdown, and a pick. Texas, thankfully, rushed for 226 yards and 2 touchdowns. That's really what drove. I mean, UTEP wasn't going to win anyway. I mean, give them Malachi Nelson was 24-36 for 209, but he threw 2 picks. And they only rushed for 50 yards. Malachi Nelson had 3 carries for -3 yards. That's a -1 rushing average. And Texas receiving didn't do much. Ryan Wingo, 3 for 32 and a touchdown. Christian Clark. Wow, Christian Clark. I actually know Christian Clark. 2 catches for 32 yards. It's just not good enough. It's not going to get Texas to where they want to be. They thought they were the number 1 team, and defense of Ohio State said, hold my beer. And this is why I call him Gateway Arch Manning. He's not Peyton for sure. He's not Eli for sure. And he's not even, okay, he's better than Cooper Manning, his dad, because he made it this far. But he's not even Archie Manning. And Archie Manning was, he was a great college quarterback, but he didn't pan out in the pros. His numbers are some of the most horrific ever in the NFL. He's just a guy. He's a jag. He's just a guy. And at this point, I'm not convinced that he's going to get Texas over the hump. Texas is a talented team with a great coach. And unfortunately, they just don't have a quarterback now. Quinn Ewers is gone. I can see now why everyone was hammering for Arch Manning to start last year simply because his last name's Manning. That's literally it. He had some flashes, but it hasn't been against impressive competition. And I apologize if the camera's shaking a little bit. He's had some flashes, but it hasn't been against impressive competition. He had an opportunity to make a statement at Ohio State and fell flat on his face. What more do we need? What more of a grace period does this kid need when he's played, aside from Ohio State, the defending national champions, subpar competition? It's like if the Ravens were to somehow, knock on wood, Lord have mercy, I couldn't take 2 in a weekend, were to somehow lose to the Browns tomorrow. There's no excuses. I mean, there's been no excuses for the Ravens. So let's get real now. They've had a roster talented enough to win the Super Bowl every year since 2019, and they haven't got it done. But Texas, man, as much I'd love to sit here and just be that pro Tennessee fan. This is the real UT, which Tennessee is the real UT. They were founded first, but somebody check on Plank. We haven't heard from him since late 4th. Hey, I'm hurting for you too, buddy. I'm hurting for you too. But at the same time, it was we all came into this year with limited expectations. I don't mean to get back to the Tennessee game, but I'm just responding to some of you in the chat. We came into here with limited expectations. So, losing to the good teams, I mean, who knows? Alabama has looked up and down this year. Maybe they can go into Tuscaloosa and get that done. But the Vols have not played well on the road in big games under Josh Heupel. I mean, they lost to Arkansas last year. They did win a big one in Oklahoma, but aside from that, they got blown out by an unranked Florida team. And granted, Joe Milton was the quarterback, but they still had a far more talented roster than Florida did that year. They just got gashed on the ground by ETN, and the offense couldn't get going. At the end of the day, I just really, really, really am not sold on Texas's quarterback situation, and I think that's really might cost them a chance at a championship this year. Steve Sarkisian might need to look in another direction. They might replace him before the season's even over. And I honestly, as much I hate that for him, because you don't want to root against a kid, but at the same time, you only get so much a grace period. This is college football is highly competitive, and it's not DEI. You don't just get to walk in there and get a spot on a team. It's highly competitive. There's either not many people that even play high school ball go on to play in college. So I know I seem like I'm at a loss for words now, but I kind of am when it comes to Arch Manning, because he just is not living up to the name. And I guess it's impossible to live up to how surgical Peyton was. It's impossible to live up to the iconic postseason standard that Eli Manning set, although he only made the postseason twice. I'm being real here. But Tennessee's in for a rough. I mean, Tennessee could rack off a couple more wins. Going into the Alabama game with 1 loss is encouraging, given that you didn't know what you were going to get with Joey Aguilar in this game. I was very pleased, aside from the 2 turnovers. I don't believe in what they call arm punts, so I didn't like that earlier interception. But 1998, my boy. Yeah. Trust me, I'm well aware, but I ain't been riding the wave since 98. I covered this program for 6 years, and I've been as objective as they come when it comes to people that bleed orange. But we're going to get into the next segment of the show, which is the Mad Minute. We're going to go around and quickly react to some college, some more action around the college space that doesn't deserve quite as much attention before we get into our predictions for tomorrow's NFL action, which I cannot wait for. Texas Tech, 35-0, beating the living breaks off of Oregon State. Can't really say I'm surprised there. Oregon State's no good. You go to Miami and USF. USF is coming off that big win against Florida, but they're getting smacked by the 5th-ranked Hurricanes. It's 28-6 in the third quarter, and it's probably going to get much because Carson Beck is 16 of 20 for 214 yards, a couple touchdowns, and he's just shredding them. Not really surprised. And funny enough, USF's receiver, former former Tennessee Vol, Chaz Nimrod. Well, yeah, still, what a name that is. 2 catches for 96 yards. I don't know how many more targets he's going to get. Ohio State playing the Ohio Bobcats, up 13-0. Not really much to say there. I think we all know what's going to happen. I'd be surprised if Ohio scored. Illinois beating Western Michigan 10-0. Ole Miss is tied with Arkansas 21-21, which I think I put some money on that game, which is not good for my case, but we'll see. Florida up 3-0 right now on third-ranked LSU, which is what I'm about to get off and watch once this show's over. Still think LSU's got that in the bag, but I mean, I never thought Florida would take a league. Good. I'm not going to say that about the Gators. Fuck them. 8th-ranked Notre Dame up 14-7 on 16th Texas A&M. That should be a good finish. Notre Dame's got the ball right now. They're across midfield and plus territory, so we'll see if they can extend their lead or if they can at least get a field goal. Vanderbilt tied with South Carolina. Again, I bet on South Carolina in that game, so I'm really hoping that Vanderbilt gets shut down the rest of the way. South Carolina's 11th. Vandy's not ranked, so should, but you never know. It's college football. And then Penn State 52-6 over Villanova. What can you say there? And Oregon 34-14 over Northwestern. Of course, Tennessee losing to Georgia 44-41. Georgia Tech. This is probably what we're going to spend the rest of the time on. Oklahoma won 42-3, by the way, in case you were wondering. Georgia Tech on a game-winning field goal knocks off 12th-ranked Clemson. You can't get aside from if Tennessee had found a way to win the game or extended their lead, you can't get a 55-yard field goal as time expired and you play for Georgia Tech. Georgia Tech's 3-0. Who knows? Maybe they will probably be ranked in the next poll. I wouldn't definitely be surprised if they're not. Hey, I mean, if Aiden Burr, I mean, Tennessee should have swapped souls with Max Gilbert and him today. They would have won the game. Just Max Gilbert's not that guy. He's an average to below average kicker at best. He makes half of his kicks. He's nothing to write home about. I'll honestly, as a Tennessee fan, I'll be happy once he's gone because I've seen what he does. I'm not impressed whatsoever with any of it. Like I said, he had a 48-yarder, but I just had no confidence in him to make that game winner. I really didn't. And everyone's like, "Oh, chill. He made one before." That doesn't mean that he's going to make it in the biggest of moments. I don't know. Yeah. Oh, speaking of which, we're going to get into that in a second. That's the NFL portion of the show. But overall, solid weekend of college football for not a lot. I mean, Tennessee and Georgia, I think, is the game of the year so far. But we'll see. I mean, we have a lot more action to go. I don't think Tennessee's going to make the playoff this year. I think that would be they would have to go undefeated the rest of the way, and I just don't know if that's going to happen. They could beat Alabama, but who knows? Maybe Alabama gets it together. Tennessee needs its top corners back, so hopefully that'll happen soon. We'll see how that goes. But overall, we're going to get now into Sunday's NFL picks. Didn't get really a chance to I did win some money off of the Packers beating Commanders. Obviously, a great game by Green Bay. They were clearly, I think I was right in reacting the way I did to their week 1 win because they just carried it over into week 2, and their defense looks this is the difference. They actually have a defense this year, and a defense with that offense with Jordan Love playing the football the way he is, it's scary. It really is. They could go to the Super Bowl this year. Skip Bayless, I mean, think what you want of him. He's already mailed it in and said, "Oh, they're going to win it." I don't know quite about that, but we're going to definitely see because I don't know. Something about it. All right. First game tomorrow. You got the Jaguars at the Bengals. Going Cincinnati. They had a poor offensive showing. I mean, Cincinnati's favored by 3.5. They had a poor offensive showing against the Browns and were very fortunate to win that game. They really shouldn't have if you boil it down. Two interceptions that bounce off of receivers' hands and missed extra point and mixed, I believe it was either 26 or a 36-yard field goal. They held Cincinnati's high-powered offense, which I shouldn't put quotes around that because they are a high-powered offense, to 7 yards in the second half. That's unheard of. Jamar Chase and T. Higgins were non-factors. And they relied on Chase Brown too much, which I didn't understand that. But I'm going to go with Cincinnati. They'll be 2-0 for the first time in I don't know how many years. good for them. They haven't really played much tough competition. Don't really have a lot of faith in Trevor Lawrence to get that one done. Would I be happy if they did? Yes, but I just don't see it happening. I think Cincinnati moves to 2-0. Jaguars drop to 1-1. Cowboys, Giants at the Cowboys. I'm going to go Dallas. I don't think the Giants are nothing to write home about. They're just a bad team. They're rebuilding. It's going to be a long rebuilding process if it ever gets back to the point where they were winning Super Bowls every few years under Tom Coughlin. Dallas is favored by 5.5. Honestly, I'd take them to cover that spread. I just don't think the Giants are going to be able to score enough to keep up. And I have no faith in Russell Wilson whatsoever. And I think CeeDee Lamb will have a big game. Bears going into the Lions. Chicago is just they're dumpster fire organization. It showed the other night when they lost to the Vikings. Caleb Williams just not that guy. He's not. I don't care if I don't give a shit if he paints his nails. I mean, it's kind of strange for an NFL quarterback, but go do you, man. I don't care. I don't care if he paints his nails. I don't care if his undershirt looks stupid. I don't care if he's not the prototypical athlete nowadays, I guess I should say, because he's not. But just not a big believer in the Bears. And Detroit needs this, and they're at home. So I think the Lions will beat the Bears handily. It's Detroit by 6.5. I think they'll cover that and win by a touchdown. Maybe the Bears score in garbage time, but I still think it'll be double digits throughout. Rams playing at the Titans. Cam Ward would probably lead the NFL in quarterback betrayal index right now because of how bad his receivers let him down in last week's game against the Broncos, in which they really, really had a chance to win. But unfortunately, Tennessee's home opener is not going to go any better, and they're going to drop to 0-2 because the Rams are that much better. I believe in Matt Stafford. Cam Ward's going to have some growing pains. He'll have some moments too. But I think Stafford, Nakua, and the boys will get it done, and Kyron Williams will have a solid game on the ground as well. So I'm taking the Rams on the road to move to 2-0, and brings us to AFC least. It's not the NFC least anymore. It's the AFC least, because the AFC East is just outside of the Bills, and the Bills even have a bunch of question marks on both defense and offense outside of Josh Allen. Patriots at the Dolphins. I had the Dolphins making the playoffs, which looks does not look good on me at this moment. I'm going to go. Miami's favored by 1.5, which means it's a toss-up. I got to go with the Dolphins at home. Would I be surprised if the Patriots won, given they have a better coaching staff and a better culture than the Dolphins? Yeah, but Miami just has more talent, and talent has to prevail sometimes. Tyreek Hill's not happy right now. You're going to have him a big game to get him back to being happy. Who knows what's going on with him? Jalen Waddle, I mean, he's capable. And then, Devin A. Chain is capable of going off at any time too. They can run the ball as well. They have a creative offense. We'll see if they can put up points on the Patriots, and I think they will. And I think Dolphins will move to 1-1, and they better move to 1-1 because I had them to make I picked them to make the playoffs. And like I said, right now, that's not looking too good on my part. 49ers at the Saints. San Francisco's favored by 2.5. I'm practically a toss-up. I'm just not a Spencer Rattler guy. I'm sorry. Even with some of the injuries the 49ers have, I'm going with San Francisco. Spencer Rattler's not the guy. I think Christian McCaffrey will be enough to ride you make it a low-scoring game, chew up the clock. Even if the Saints offense does get out on the field, you have Fred Warner on defense, solid unit. Like I said, they're not the 49ers of a few years ago, but they're better than the Saints. The Saints are a shit show, and I think some people in the chat would love to hear that. Bills at the Jets. Bills coming off that highly emotional home opener against my Ravens, which they came back from down 15 with 4:55 to go in the game. Tremendous comeback. Tremendous game played, but it was a bit of a fluky win because so many things went right for them that typically don't go right. The 4th down touchdown pass that was tipped by Kincaid, I believe, or Dawson Knox, ending in Keon Coleman's hands in the back of the end zone. Derrick Henry fumbling the ball after he had ran for 175 yards, I believe, at that moment. It's probably not going to happen again. Lamar cramping in the 4th quarter, which maybe it's a conspiracy in me, and I love Lamar. I will defend Lamar to my grave. The man literally shared my Instagram post of my engagement on his social media. So I'm forever in debt to Lamar, as if I wasn't anyway. But, oh, man, if I had a choice to pick an upset, oh, man. The Jets played very well last game on offense. The Bills still have a lot of question marks on defense. The Jets have talent. The Bills have some talent on the offensive end, but Josh Allen's just going to, I mean, he might not need to be Superman against the Jets, but I'm going with the Jets in an upset. I think Buffalo's on upset alert. I'm going to take the Jets to beat them at home. Going with the Jets. Buffalo's favored by 6.5. I'm going to take the Jets plus 6.5. Seahawks at the Steelers. Seahawks 0-1. Steelers 1-0 after Aaron Rodgers, had a throwback performance against the Jets to come back and beat them late in the fourth quarter. But I'm going with man. I'm going with the Seahawks. I think they'll win this one. Pittsburgh has a great home field advantage, but I'm not sold yet on the Steelers offense and their defense, despite having some big names. I mean, they made plays at the end, but they got carved up by a presumably bad offense. Maybe the Jets will surprise some people. I doubt it, but I'm going with the Seahawks. I'm picking 2 straight upsets. Look at me here. Hot take here. So I'm going to mark that down. And for those of you, I'm still tallying my record, and we'll get into that tomorrow. I just haven't had a chance to do it yet because I was glued to the TV for the finish of that Tennessee-Georgia game. Browns-Ravens. Ravens favored by 11. The spread's moved to 11.5 now. Ravens celebrating their 30th anniversary at their home opener, welcoming back former quarterback Joe Flacco, who has hung on to dear life at 41 years old and has had some pretty good moments coming off the couch. But Ravens favored by 11.5. Ravens desperate to get a win after that terrible showing down the stretch in Buffalo, and to prove that this defense isn't going to take till week 10 to turn it around. I'm taking the Ravens here, and I think it's hard to say. I don't think they'll cover the spread. I think it'll be a 10-point game. Maybe they're up. I mean, who knows? Maybe the emotions will be riding high and they'll lay down an ass whooping, but blowouts in the AFC North just usually don't happen. It's just a rarity. So I'm going to take the Ravens. I think they'll win by 10. I think this will be in hand. I think the Browns will score late to make it a little interesting, but taking the Ravens. Browns fall to 0-2. Ravens even up at 1-1 before they host the Lions on Monday Night Football, which is going to be a big game. Broncos at the Colts. Broncos did not look great in their first showing. Bo Nix struggled mightily, and they were fortunate enough that J.K. Dobbins saved the day late. Colts obviously coming off that inspiring performance. Well, it's not inspiring. Nothing Daniel Jones does is inspiring. Colts coming off that performance in which Daniel Jones threw for 272 and a touchdown. They're at home, but I'm still taking the Broncos. I think the Broncos are a real threat to win the AFC West this year, and I'm going to take them to move to 2-0, and the Colts are just going to come back down to earth. Panthers, Cardinals. I mean, I'm going to go with the Cardinals. I said it before the season. The Bryce Young experiment in Carolina is over. It's going to come to a crashing end this year. It's not disparaging Bryce Young in any way. It's time for him to move on and get a fresh start. Sometimes we all need it. We sometimes need it in our jobs and our dating life. Sometimes you just need to move on and have a fresh start, and I think that's what's going to happen after this year. Eagles at the Chiefs in a rematch of Super Bowl 59. Oh, man. Could the Chiefs really fall to 0-2 for the first time under Patrick Mahomes and Andy Reid? I'm going to do it. Philadelphia is favored by 1.5, which means it's a toss-up, which it is a toss-up because you still got 15 on the other side. Maybe their defense will get it together after last week, but, I mean, their offense is limited a little bit. Going with the Eagles. Chiefs are going to be 0-2 for the first time in the Mahomes era. And really, 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 we're going to see what the Chiefs are made of because they do host the Ravens in a couple weeks too, which the Ravens are notoriously known for blowing leads. Next game, you have the Falcons at the Vikings. This is going to be the Sunday night game. Minnesota's favored by 3.5. And I mean, aside from, you got Jordan Addison and you got Justin Jefferson, obviously. 1A, 1B with Jamar Chase, best receiver in the NFL. J.J. McCarthy really struggled against somewhat average or below average Bears defense and came on late. Yeah, I give him credit for that on the road, but Chicago's not a tough environment to win in anymore. I'm going to go with the Falcons to spoil the Vikings home opener on primetime football. I think they found themselves a quarterback. Bijan Robinson is awesome. Kyle Pitts, I think he's going to have a bounce back year. Drake London. They've got a good offense, and that fourth down stretch by Penix was awesome. And Younghoe Koo may not be the kicker anymore. Maybe he's off. Maybe he fell off a cliff too, which would be shocking because he's not that old. But Who knows what will happen there? I'm going with the Falcons. They'll even it up. They'll be 500, and I think the Vikings will fall back down to earth as well. J.J. McCarthy might have some good moments. Atlanta's defense is not the greatest in the world, but they're not the worst, and they've got some playmakers on that defensive side of the football. So look for them to make plays. I think they'll win the turnover battle, and I think that'll be the difference in this one. Going with the Monday night, we got a Monday night doubleheader. First is Buccaneers at the Texans. Houston's favored by 2.5. I'm going to take Houston. I don't think Baker will get the same kind of magic he had in Atlanta, which, who knows? Emeka Ibuka, I can still not say his name. I couldn't last year either. Had a great game against the Falcons. Texans at home for their home opener. I think they'll take care of business. 1-1 for each team after that. And then you have the Chargers at the Raiders. I'm going to go with the Chargers. They've started off the season hot and beat Kansas City and Brazil. And the Raiders might have Pete Carroll and Geno Smith now and Brock Bowers, who could possibly be limited a little bit. But going to go with the Chargers to spoil the Raiders home opener. I just don't, unless that's not their home opener, which is very possible. I could have forgotten whether they played at home last week or not. But I'm going to take a few moments to natty rematch. Ohio State playing right now. Joe Flacco versus the Ravens. Yes, it is. It is Joe Flacco returning to the scene of the crime where he was very average in very many regular season games. Okay, let's have a discussion, an impromptu discussion here about what Joe Flacco really is. Joe Flacco is a average quarterback who had some good moments and great moments in the postseason. I think people, his postseason numbers because of that playoff run, and he played pretty well in 2014. 2011 was all right. Are a little inflated, but people do remember that from 2008 to 2010, and he really struggled in the postseason. He came around oh yes, he did. That game where they ran wild over the Patriots in 2009, he threw for 120 yards. Then he came apart in the second half in 2010 against Pittsburgh when they were up 21-7, and that was the reason the Ravens lost that game. I mean, TJ Hushmanzada dropped the fourth down pass that was right in his hands, but he's a winner. Well, the Ravens made the playoffs one time after they won that Super Bowl, and they paid him twice. He deserved it for that Super Bowl run, but then they paid him again in 2016 and didn't make the playoffs again until Lamar stepped in as a rookie who couldn't throw, and he really wasn't a polished thrower of the football that year. So, yeah, he might be a winner at the end of the day, but he's not. He was not elite. He was elite for 4 games. So we thank him for that. We thank him for the Mile High Miracle. We thank him for going to toe-to-toe with Tom Brady. And we thank him for making sure that Colin Kaepernick's not a champion, because Lord have mercy what that would have made that guy. Oh, gosh. Also beat the GOAT with a horrible team in 2014. The Ravens were horrible in 2014. They won the division, I believe. No, they didn't win the division. They went on the road and beat Pittsburgh. Almost beat the GOAT with a horrible team. No, it was a bad secondary. They had a great offense. They were top 8 in offense that year. That was the highest rated offense they had under Joe Flacco. But the secondary couldn't keep the leads, but they needed to keep scoring, and he threw 2 costly interceptions in the second half, which the Ravens couldn't afford to have. And, that was back to what he typically does in big moments. But he was Joe Flacco. Skip Bayless got a lot of things wrong in his television career, but that's one thing he got right. And that's a damn funny nickname, to be completely honest. I laugh at it all the time. But the funny thing was, I know so many sports fans that are, well, they're younger than me, so who knows? But they claim that they know sports, but they're like, I've never heard him say that. I was like, how have you not? How have you not? Got to go for it. You don't go for the end zone when it's second down and you have plenty of time to get into scoring range to win that game. You don't toss it up into triple coverage where Torrey Smith didn't even have a chance. But overall, we'll see how my record comes after tomorrow. That's one good thing about being a Tennessee fan is I can always look forward to the Ravens game the next day because, as I said before, the NFL is my favorite game. It's my favorite league in the world, and I think it's the funnest league to watch. Best of the best. Never that. 12-0. 12-0. What are you talking about? It was 11-0. If it was 12-0, he would have set a record. He tied the record. But we're going to get into Sunday's featured bet. Featured bet this week. This is what I've got. Taking the Lions over the Bears at home, and then I have a multi-leg parlay on the Ravens game, taking the Ravens to win. Going with one Mark Andrews touchdown, one Derrick Henry touchdown. I've got 80-plus Derrick Henry rushing yards, and then I can't even see that at the bottom because I'm blind as a bat. And then I got Lamar Jackson, 225 passing and rushing yards. I think that's a pretty solid one, to be completely honest. If you want to go take my bet, take my word for it, go for it. But remember, like I said earlier, do not come back to me and say that I'm the reason that you didn't win your money because you took the bet that I took. Again, I don't control what these guys do on the field. That's them. Not that superstitious either. So, with that being said, that is this week's edition of the featured bet. We're going to start doing this every week, but too small to see on the screen, FYI. That's why I told everybody I took the Lions to beat the Bears. One Mark Andrews touchdown, one Derrick Henry touchdown, 80-plus Derrick Henry rushing yards. Normally I'd take 100, but the Browns have a good defensive front. And then I have Lamar's passing and rushing yards of more than 225. So if you want to make that featured bet, go right ahead. ESPN Bet was handing out feature bets like crazy this week. Usually DraftKings is my go-to and then FanDuel's second. But when you say you got 10, 15 free bucks in bets, you take it. I'm cheap as hell when it comes to that. I think you'd be a fool not to be this day and age with the cost of living. But what did you all think? If you're just tuning in for the first time as we wrap up the show, be sure to like the video if you enjoyed it. Leave a comment. Click that bell, subscribe to the channel first and foremost, and then of course click that bell button to get notified of when we drop our live content multiple times throughout the week. Going to be obviously live tomorrow evening to react to some NFL action, and then obviously Monday, Wednesday, and Friday as well. So Tennessee unfortunately did not get it done. I still wear my orange proudly. It was an inspiring performance from a team that we really didn't know what to expect coming in. We had a lot of confidence based on what they had done and a lot to build off of, but a lot to really wish you had back. But and what's the payout? The payout's $85 on $5. So if you bet 10, double that and so on and so forth. That's what the odds are. But thank you all for tuning in to this edition of the Cory Standing Show. I'm going to go eat some of my fiance's delicious sushi burritos, which are fantastic. You all need to try that. Maybe I'll have her come on and talk. Nah, she wouldn't talk about it. She's too nervous to get in front of a camera. But tune into the show tomorrow night. We'll probably be going live around 8 o'clock. I'll see you all then. Enjoy the rest of your Saturday evening, and we'll catch you in the next one.